You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 127. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, we are celebrating International Women's Day. This is a day to celebrate women's achievement, raise awareness against bias, and take action for equality. Now, as I contemplated today's episode, I did what I do best. I started to Google what today is all about and how it started. Way back in 1908, there was great unrest and critical debate that was occurring amongst women. Women's oppression and inequality was spurring women to become more vocal and active in campaigning for change. Then in 1908, 15,000 women marched through New York City demanding shorter hours, better pay, and voting rights. Now, in accordance with a declaration by the Socialist Party of America, the first National Women's Day was observed across the United States on February 18th in 1909. Women continued to celebrate National Women's Day on the last Sunday of February until 1913. In 1910, a second international conference of working women was held in Copenhagen. A woman named Clara Zetkin, who was the leader of the Women's Office for the Social Democratic Party in Germany, tabled the idea of an International Women's Day. She proposed that every year in every country there should be a celebration on the same day, a Woman's Day, to press for their demands. The conference of over 100 women from 17 countries representing unions, socialist parties, working women's clubs, and including the first 3 women elected to the Finnish parliament, greeted Zetkin's suggestion with unanimous approval, and thus, International Women's Day was the result. Following the decision agreed at Copenhagen in Denmark in 1911, International Women's Day was honored for the first time in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland on March 19th. More than 1 million women and men attended International Women's Day rallies campaigning for women's rights to work, vote, be trained, to hold public office, and end discrimination. However, less than a week later, on March 25th, the tragic Triangle Fire in New York City took the lives of more than 140 working women, most of them Italian and Jewish immigrants. This disastrous event drew significant attention to working conditions and labor legislation in the United States that became a focus of subsequent International Women's Day events. 1911 also saw Women's Bread and Roses campaign. On the eve of World War I, campaigning for peace, Russian women observed their first International Women's Day on February 23rd, the last Sunday in February. Following discussions, International Women's Day was agreed to be marked annually on March 8th. That translated in the widely adopted Gregorian calendar from February 23rd. And this day has remained the global date for International Women's Day ever since. In 1914, further women across Europe held rallies to campaign against the war and to express women's solidarity. For example, in London, in the United Kingdom, there was a march from Bow to Trafalgar Square in support of women's suffrage on March 8, 1914. Sylvia Pankhurst was arrested in front of Charing Cross Station on her way to speak in Trafalgar Square. On the last Sunday of February in 1917, Russian women began a strike for bread and peace in response to the death of over 2 million Russian soldiers in World War I. Opposed by political leaders, the women continued to strike until 4 days later, the Tsar was forced to abdicate and the provisional government granted women the right to vote. The date the women's strike commenced was Sunday, February 23rd on the Julian calendar, then in use in Russia. This day on the Gregorian calendar in use elsewhere was March 8th. Every year, International Women's Day is given a theme, which often relates to contemporary trends, events, and struggles. This year, the focus is on breaking the bias. Imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. Purple, green, and white are the colors of International Women's Day. Purple signifies justice and dignity. Green symbolizes hope. White represents purity, albeit a controversial concept. The International Women's Day website reads, "The purpose of International Women's Day is to focus global attention on the state of women when it comes to gender equality, bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. Its goal is to make the world more diverse, equitable, and inclusive for them, for us." There's something powerful when women support other women, when women are able to find each other and the strength that forms in the bonds that are created. I've been blessed to have always had great female friends, but I do think that in the past few years, my bonds have not only grown, but I've found more women who I truly connect with and feel closer to more than ever before. This could also be because I feel more connected to myself. When women truly want the best for each other, we lift one another up to ridiculously high levels. I have a group of women that I meet monthly online for a Zoom call, and we discuss what's going on in our businesses, what blocks we are having, what advice we need, and we support one another. Last month, I was so elevated by these women that I felt like I was on cloud nine when we got off our call. It was all followed up with emails afterwards, and the support continues long after the call does. In my group of mom friends, I am surrounded by women I refer to as my people. I have found a group of women who not only love to get shit done the way I do, but if they see something you could use help with, they simply do it without asking. This is the type of person I am, so you have no idea how refreshing it is to have those actions reciprocated. I'm blown away when someone calls me out for doing something that I simply consider being myself. This week, PR Power did an article celebrating digital PR power ladies. This was not something I had seen or heard about until I was tagged in a tweet telling me that I was mentioned in this article. I was being celebrated not only for the work I do, but for how I provide space for other women to share their stories, struggles, and journeys. I've shared that a big part of this show is my own personal desire to meet others and to hear their stories. But if this is the impact that my podcast has, then I'm not only humbled, but in awe of what I've been able to create and how it's helping others. Going a step further, having an article like this come out of the blue is truly one of the kindest things ever. I see people all around me impacting the world in big, positive ways. I see and feel the love that they are putting out into the world, and so often I think to myself that if one person thinks that of me, then I've done something right in my lifetime. Today and every day, let's take time to not only show our gratitude to the important women in our lives, but to also shout it out to others and let the world know what an incredible job women are doing with their skills, expertise, advocacy, and love. On this International Women's Day, I celebrate all of the women in my life and thank you from the bottom of my heart for being yourselves, for your support, guidance, impact, love, and above all, for being you. Let's celebrate each other, raise each other up, call out biases, smash stereotypes, break inequality, and reject discrimination. Together, we can and are changing the world.